about the stars? Open the windows. Group the sick together. Make more space for them. Good. Now stop being frightened. That's the one condition of deliverance. Let all of you who can rise to their feet. Why are you cowering like that? Hold up your heads. The hour of pride has struck. Throw away your gags and proclaim with me that you have stopped being afraid. O spirit of revolt, glory of the people, and vital protest against death, give these gagged men and women the power of your voice. Brother, we hear you, and wretched as is the plight of men like us who live on bread and olives, by whom a mule is reckoned as a fortune, and who Dutch wine but twice a year on wedding days and birthdays, we, abject as we are, can feel hope stirring in our hearts. But the old fear has not left them. Olives and bread give life a savor, and little though we have, we are afraid of losing it and our lives. You will lose your head and bread and olives, and your lives, as well as if you let things continue as they are. Even if all you want is to keep your daily bread, you must begin by fighting down your fear. Spirit of Spain, awake! We are poor and ignorant, but we have been told that the plague follows the course of the seasons. It has its spring when it strikes root and buds, a summer when it bears its fruit. Perhaps when winter comes it dies, but tell us, brother, is winter here? Has winter really set in this breeze that has sprung up really blowing from the sea? Always we have paid for everything with a currency of toil and tears. Must we now pay in the currency of blood? There they are again, the men, prating of the concerns of men. But we are here to remind you of moments that fall into your hands like sun-ripe fruit of days fragrant with flowers and the black will of the yews, the scents and sights of Spain. We are weak, and you with your big bones can always master us, but none the less do not forget in the dust and heat of your shadow fights our flowers of flesh. It is the plague that is wearing us to the bone, parting lovers, withering the flowers of our days. And our first duty is to fight the plague. Has winter really come? The oaks in our forests are still clad with tiny gleaming acorns, and wasps are buzzing round their trunks. No, winter has not yet begun. The winter of your wrath, let that be your beginning. Yes, but is hope waiting for us at the end of the road, or must we die of despair upon the way? Cease talking of despair. Despair is a gag, and today the thunder of hope and a lightning flash of happiness and are shattering the silence of this beleaguered city. Stand up, I tell you, and act like men. Tear up your certificates, smash the windows of their offices, leave the ranks of fear, and shout your freedom to the four winds of heaven. We are the dispossessed, and hope is our only riches. How could we live without it? Yes, brother, we will fling away these gags. Now the first man is falling on the parched earth, sealing the cracks that the heat has made. Autumn is here with her mantle of green and a cool wind of blowing from the sea. Hope buoys us up like a great wave. What's all this commotion about? Will you be good enough to replace your gags at once? They're getting out of hand, as usual. Well, we must take severer measures. Yes, I hope we must. Why, of course we must. We are on the right track, that's sure. To abide by the regulations or not to abide by them. There you have all philosophy and ethics in a nutshell. But in my opinion, if your honor will permit me to express it, we don't go far enough. You talk too much. That's because I'm bubbling over with enthusiasm, and while I've been with you, I have learned quite a lot. Suppression, that's always been my gospel, but until now I had no good arguments to back it up. Now I have the regulations on my side. But the regulations do not suppress everything. Watch your step, my man. You're not in line. Mind you, there were rules and regulations before you came on the scene, but no one had had the idea of an all-embracing regulation, a sum total of all accounts, with the human race put on the index, all life replaced by a table of contents, the universe put out of action, heaven and earth at last devalued and debunked. Go back to your work, you drunken sot, and you, my dear, get busy. How shall we start? Oh, at random, the way it's more impressive. Long live death, you no longer frighten us. Eliminate that man. Impossible. Why? He has ceased being afraid. You don't say so. Does he know? He has suspicions. Splendid. They're dying like flies. Ah, if only we could blow up the whole world. Go to the help of those who fall. That fellow is really going too far. As you say, he's going far. Why do you sound so sad about it? You haven't by any chance let him know how things stand, have you? No, he must have found that out for himself, a sort of clairvoyance. He may have clairvoyance, but I have that means of action. We shall have to try new tactics. I leave that choice to you. Ah! This is the beginning of the end. The strange hold is loosening. The sky is clearing. The air growing breathable. Listen, you can hear it again, the murmur of the streams at the black sun of the plague had dried up. Summer is passing. Soon we shall no longer have the grapes of the vine arbor, nor melons, green beans, and fresh salad. The water of hope is softening the hard earth and promising us the solaces of winter. Roast chestnuts, corn, with the grain still green, tender walnuts, milk simmering on the earth. Ignorant as we are, this much we know. That too high a price should not be paid for these good things. Everywhere in the world, and whoever be the master, there will always be fresh fruit by the plucking. The poor man's cup of wine, a fine fire of vine twigs at which we can warm our hands, waiting for better times. Really, you'd think we were in the midst of a revolution, but that is not the case, as you are well aware. Anyhow, it's not the masses who launch revolutions nowadays, and it's no use trying to put the clock back. Modern revolutions don't need insurgents. The police attend to everything, even to overthrow of the government in power. And when you think of it, isn't that a great improvement? That way the common people can take it easy, while some kind souls do all the thinking for them and decide what modicum of welfare they can do with. I've half a mind to knock that damned eel on the head and rip her guts out. So, my good friends, wouldn't you do best to let it go at that? Once a government is settled in, it always costs more than it's worth to change it. Even if the present system strikes you as intolerable, there's always the hope of getting some concessions. What concessions? How can I tell? But surely you women realize that even every upheaval costs a lot more, a lot of suffering, and a good appeasement often plays better than a ruinous victory. Don't listen. All she said has been thought up in advance. What do you mean by thought up? I'm talking common sense, that's all. Just what concessions do you have in mind? Well, it's difficult to answer that right off. Still, to give an example, I don't see why we shouldn't join with you in appointing a committee to decide by a majority of votes what eliminations should be ordered. Then this notebook in which the eliminations are made would be kept in the possession of the committee. Mind you, I'm only saying this by way of illustration of an arrangement we might come to. Will you give me back that notebook at once? You know quite well how valuable it is, and that it's enough to strike out the name of one of your fellow citizens for him to die on the spot. You poisonous vixen. It's you who should be eliminated. Forward, let's all join in a general suppression. It's not enough suppressing others. Let's suppress ourselves. Here we are, gathered together, oppressors and oppressed. A happy band of victims waiting in the arena. Go to it, Bull. Now for the universal cleanup. That's so. There's plenty of cleaning up to do in this here city. We'll never have another chance like this of rubbing out some of those sons of bitches who've been living on the fat of the land while we were starving. You see, they're doing the work themselves. Do you really think they're worth all the trouble you are taking? That's no good. I have a duplicate. Go back to your work. You've been tricked. When they're frightened, their fear is for themselves, but their hatred is for others. Neither fear nor hatred, therein lies our victory. Silence. I am he who returns the wine bitter and dries up the fruit. I nip the young vine when it is putting forth its grapes and rot it when it needs the fires of summer. I loathe your simple joys. I loathe this country in which men claim to be free without being rich. I have prisons and executioners on my side. Power and blood are my ministers. The city will be wiped out, and upon its ruins history will expire at last in the august silence. Of all perfect social orders, silence them, or I destroy everything. We still have the hostages. Something always remains. Nothing goes on, and everything goes on, and my offices too go on functioning. Even if the city falls in ruins and men forsake the earth, these offices will continue opening at the usual hour. To see to it that government goes on. Even if nothing is left to govern, I stand for eternity. My paradise will have its records, office, files, and rubber stamps forever. They are in flight. Summer is ending with our victory. So after all, man has won the day, and for us, victory takes the form of our women's bodies quickened by the showers of love, of happy flesh warm and glistening like the clusters of September grapes round which the wood wasps buzz. Harvests of the vine are heaped on the belly's wine press, and wine spurts red over the tips of drunken breasts. Soon, oh my love, you will see desire bursting like an overripe fruit in the glory of bodies, issuing at last in shining freedom. In every corner of the sky, mysterious hands are proffering flowers from quenchless fountains. The golden wine is flowing. Now is the festival of victory. Let us make haste to join our women. Ah, this mistake. This makes one want to kill or to die. Oh, Victoria, most glorious of women, fierce and unconquerable as love, turn your face toward me, if only for a moment. Come back, Victoria. Do not let yourself be lured away to that dim place beyond the world, where you will be lost to me forever. Do not leave me. The earth is cold. Struggle to keep your foothold on this narrow ledge of life, where we are still together, and do not let yourself slip down into the abyss. For if you die, it will be dark at noon, and all the days that yet are given me to live. Now we are at grips with truth. Till now it was but half in earnest. What we have before us is a human body racked by agony. Thus, after the tumult and the shouting, the fine speeches, the cries of long live death, death comes in person and clutches the throat of the beloved. And then, at the very moment when it is too late for loving, love returns. It's not too late. Look, she's trying to rise. Yes, Victoria, once again I shall see you standing before me, straight as a torch, with the black flames of your hair rippling in the wind, and that glory of love upon your face whose radiance was ever with me in my darkest hour. For I had you with me in the thickest of the fight, and my heart saw me through. You'll forget me, that's certain. Your heart will not see you through the years of absence. Did it not fail you in the hour of misfortune only a while ago? Ah, how cruel it is to die knowing one will be forgotten. I shall not forget you. My remembrance will outlast my life. O suffering body, once so desirable, a queenly beauty once so radiant. A man cries for the impossible, a woman endures all that is possible. Bow your proud head, Diego, and accuse yourself, for the hour of repentance has struck. Deserter, that body was your homeland. Without it, you are nothing anymore. Do not count on your remembrance to save you. Well, do you throw in your hand? Your strength has turned to weakness. Your eyes are wavering, but I have the steady gaze of power. Let her live and kill me instead. What's that you say? I propose an exchange. What exchange? My life for hers. That's the sort of romantic notion one has when one is tired. Don't forget that dying is a far from pleasant process, and she is through with the worst of it. So let's leave well enough alone. It's the sort of notion one has when one's the stronger. Look at me. I am strength incarnate. Take off your uniform. Are you crazy? Strip, I tell you. When strong men take off their uniforms, they are not pretty sights. Quite likely their strength lies in having invented uniforms. Man lies. Mine lies in rejecting them. Well, I stand by my offer. Don't be over hasty in deciding. Life has its good points. My life is nothing. What count for me are my reasons for living. I'm not a dog. The first cigarette of the day. Will you tell me that it's not nothing? And the smell of dust at noon on the Rambla, rain falling through the dusk, a woman unknown as yet, the second glass of wine. Do these mean nothing to you? They mean something, yes. But this girl will live better than I. No, provided you give up troubling yourself about others. On the road I've chosen there is no turning back. Even if one wants it, I shall not spare you. Now listen well. If you offer me your life in exchange for that girl's, I am bound to accept your offer and she will live. But there's another arrangement we can make if you agree to it. I'll give you that girl's life and let you both escape, provided you let me make my own terms with the city. No, I know my power. In that case, I will be frank with you. For me, there can be no question of half measures. I must be master of all, or I am master of nothing. So if you escape me, the city escapes me. That's the law, an ancient law whose origin I do not know. But I do. It comes from the abyss of time. It is greater than you, loftier than your gibbets. It is the law of nature. We have won the day. Not yet. I have this girl's body as my hostage, and this hostage is the last trump in my hand. If any woman has life written on her face, it's she. She deserves to live, and you wish to have her live. As for me, I am bound to give her back to you, but only in exchange for your life, or for the freedom of the city. Make your choice. It is hard to die. Yes, it's hard, but it's hard for them as well. You fool! Don't you realize that 10 years of this girl's love are worth far more than a century of freedom for those men? This girl's love is my private property, and I can deal with it as I choose. But those men's freedom belongs to them. I have no rights over it. No one can be happy without causing harm to others. That is the world's justice. A justice that revolts me, and to which I refuse to subscribe. Who asked you to subscribe to it? The scheme of things will not be changed just because you'd like it to be otherwise. But if you really want to change it, abandon idle dreams and face up to reality. No, I know those stale old arguments. To do away with murder, we must kill, and to prevent injustice, we must do violence. That's been dinned into our ears till we took it for granted. For centuries, fine gentlemen of your kind have been infecting the world's wounds on the pretense of healing them, and none the less continuing to boast of their treatment, because no one had the courage to laugh them out of court. No one laughs because it's I who get things done. I am efficient. Efficient, I don't deny, and practical, like the headsman's axe. But isn't it enough to watch the way that men behave? You very soon realize that any kind of justice is good enough for them. Since the gates of the city were closed, I've had ample time for watching. In that case, you certainly have learned that they will always fail you. You will always be alone, and the lonely man is doomed. No, that's false. If I were alone, everything would be easy, but whether they want it or not, they are with me. And what a fine herd they make! For one thing, they stink. I know they are not pure, nor am I, for that matter. After all, I was born among them, and I live for my city and my age. An age of slaves. No, the age of free men. Free men! You amaze me. I can't see any here. Where are they? In your prisons, in your charnel houses. The slaves are on the thrones. Only dress up your free men in my policemen's uniforms and see that they become. I don't deny that they can be cowardly and cruel at times. That is why they have no better right than you to hold the reins of power. No man is good enough to be entrusted with absolute power, that I grant you. But by the same token, that is why these men are entitled to compassion, whereas you are not. The coward's way of living is to live as they do. Mean ant-like lives, never rising above mediocrity. On that level, I can feel at one with them. And if I am not faithful to the humble truth I share with them, how could I keep faith with the greater, lonelier ideal that is mine? The only fidelity I know of is scorn. Look, isn't that enough? I reserve my scorn for the oppressors. Whatever you do, these men will be greater than you. When one of them kills, he does it in a gust of passion. But you slaughter people logically, legally, cold-bloodedly. Why scoff at their bowed heads when for so many generations the comets of fear have been roaming the skies above them? Why laugh at their timid airs when for centuries death has been playing havoc with them, tearing their love like waste paper? The worst of their crimes has always had an excuse, but I find no excuse for the wrong that has been done them since the dawn of time, and which you have legalized in your foul code. No, I will not lower my eyes. Yes, that's obvious. You will not lower them. So I may as well tell you that you have come through the last ordeal with success. If you had made over this city to me, you would have lost this girl, and you too would have been lost. As it is, this city has a good chance of being free. So as you, a madman like yourself, suffices, naturally the madman dies. But in the end, sooner or later, the rest are saved, and they don't deserve to be saved. The madman dies. On second thought, you're not so sure. But of course, that's quite in order. A last minute hesitation. Pride will triumph in the end. I stood for honor, and today I shall regain my honor only among the dead. As I was saying, it's pride that kills them. But all this is very tiring for an old man like myself. Get ready. I am ready. There are the marks. They hurt. Good. Suffer a little before dying. That, anyhow, I can insist on. When hatred flames up in me, the suffering of others is a healing dew. Groan a little. That does me good. And let me watch your suffering before I leave this city. Now then, my dear, get to work. Yes, I suppose I must. Tired already, is that it? I always knew your hatred did not strike deep enough, whereas mine is insatiable. I must ever have new victims. We'll get things over quickly, and we'll begin again elsewhere. You are right. I haven't hatred to hold me because my duties do not call for it, but in a way, it is your fault too. When one has to drudge away at keeping up statistics, one loses the power of feeling emotion. Mere words. If you want something to uphold you, as you call it, you can find it. In the pleasure of destruction, that anyhow falls within your duties. So be it, let's destroy, but I must say it goes against the grain. What authority have you to question my orders? The authority of memory, for I have not forgotten what I was before you came. Then I was free, an ally of the accidental. No one hated me. I was the visitant who checks the march of time, shapes destinies, and stabilizes loves. I stood for the permanent, but you have made me the handmaid of logic, rules, and regulations, and I have lost the knack I had of sometimes being helpful. Who wants your help? Those who are not big enough to face a sea of troubles, nearly enough, that is to say. Quite often I could work in a sort of harmony with them. I existed in my fashion. Today I do violence to them, and one is and all they curse me with their last breath. Perhaps that's why I like this man whom you are telling me to kill. He chose me freely, and in his way he pitied me. Yes, I like people who meet me halfway. You'd do better not to irritate me. We have no need for pity. Who could need pity more than those who themselves have none? When I say I like this man, what I mean is really that I envy him for. For with conquerors like us, love takes the ugly form of envy. You know this well, and you know too that for this reason we deserve a little pity. That's enough. I order you to keep silent. You know it well, and you know too that when one kills enough, one comes to envy the innocence of those one kills. Oh, if only for a moment, let me call a halt to this ruthless logic, and let me fancy that at last I am leaning on a human body. I am so sick of shadows, and I envy all these wretched people. Yes, even that girl, whom when she returns to life will start howling like a wounded animal. But at least she will have her grief to lean on. Stand up, man. The end cannot come until my charming companion takes the necessary steps. And as you see, she is indulging in sentiment just now. But don't be afraid. She will do her duty. It's in the rules, and she knows what is expected of her. The machine is creaking a bit, that's all. But before it folds completely, you shall have your wish, young fool. I give you back this city. Yes, I am going, but do not overdo your glee. I am pleased with myself here, too. We have made a success of it. I like my name to live upon men's lips, and I know you will not forget me. Look at me. Look for a last time at the only power in the world. Acclaim your one true monarch and learn to fear. Uh, in the old days, you professed to fear God and his caprices. But your God was an anarchist who played fast and loose with logic. He thought he could be both autocratic and kind hearted at the same time. But that was obviously wishful thinking, if I may put it so. I, anyhow, know better. I stand for power and power alone. Yes, I have chosen domination, which, as you have learned, can be more formidable than hell itself. For thousands and thousands of years, I have strewn your fields and cities with dead bodies. My victims have fertilized the sands of Libya, and black Ethiopia, the soil of Persia, still is fat with the sweat of my corpses. I have filled Athens with the fires of purification, kindled on her beaches thousands of funeral pyres, and spread the seas of Greece so thick with ashes that their blue turned gray. The gods, yes, even the poor gods, were revolted by my doings. Then, when the temples gave place to cathedrals, my horsemen filled them with howling mobs. For years told, on all 5 continents, I have been killing without respite and without compunction. As systems go, mine was not a bad one. There was a sound idea behind it. Nevertheless, that idea was somewhat narrow. If you want to know the way I feel about it, I'll say a dead man is refreshing enough, but he's not remunerative. Not nearly so rewarding as a slave. So the great king is to secure a majority of slaves by means of minority of well-selected deaths. And thanks to our improved technique, we now can bring this off. That's why, after having killed or humiliated the requisite number of persons, we shall have whole nations on their knees. No form of beauty or grandeur will stand up to us, and we shall triumph over everything.